Hello everyone, Alan Sens here, and welcome to this segment on Arms Control Challenges, North Korea, Part 2. In this segment, we're going to look at more recent developments surrounding North Korea's nuclear program. So let's get started. By the time we're done, you should be familiar with the international politics surrounding the North Korean nuclear program. So here's sort of the current situation in basic terms. We know that North Korea possesses the full nuclear fuel cycle and can produce weapons-grade, highly enriched uranium and plutonium. We also know that North Korea continues to develop and test long-range ballistic missiles. And the 2017 nuclear test suggests that North Korea may possess a hydrogen bomb. Now this chart just gives us a graphic illustration of North Korea's nuclear tests. You can see the yield up here and the magnitude here. And this is why the 2017 test is so significant. It obviously was a much larger test, estimated at somewhere around 140, maybe a bit more kilotons, and with a magnitude that was significantly higher than previous tests. And this all led to a lot of speculation and I think a general consensus that the 2017 tests represented a very successful test for North Korea and could indicate the possession of a hydrogen bomb capability. A lot of the earlier tests were considered to be either very small or fizzles. The bomb did not reach its full potential, full explosive yield. But the 2017 test is sort of taken as the first that clearly demonstrates that North Korea has a nuclear weapon capability, a nuclear warhead capability that is fully technically capable of taking advantage of the full fissile reaction within the core of the explosion. So this is a bit of a game changer in the sense that there was always some question about North Korea's warheads in the past because of its tests, but now that those questions have largely been removed. Here's another chart illustrating now developments in North Korea's ballistic missile capability. Obviously, this is important because these are the primary delivery systems that North Korea would use, and just these are all the missiles kind of shown down here, and their ranges are shown up here at the top of the chart. And a lot of concern was expressed about the threat that North Korea's missile capability meant to North Asian security when the ranges were sort of in this area here, right, around the North Asia area. But with the development of the Hwasong-12, this system right here, it was the beginning of their capacity to just hit North America, basically parts of Alaska and the Aleutian Islands. And then, of course, with the development of the Hwasong-13 and subsequent developments, including the 14 and 15 models of these missiles, we start to get ranges where some of North America, most of North America, and now all of North America are within range of a North Korean nuclear missile. And so this is a game changer, right? I mean, on the one hand, you've got a warhead with full capability, with a very high explosive yield, and now you've got North Korea having missile systems that are capable of delivering that warhead to North America. This chart shows the expansion of North Korea's missile testing program. All the missiles are listed down here at the bottom with all the names. Not hugely important. We're not going to get that technical. Of course, people that watch this stuff watch the technicalities very closely. But for us, we can see here the dates of the tests. Right, so these are the nuclear tests here. And then we can see in the 2011 to 2017 period, and in the latter part of the 1994 to 2011 period, this escalation in the number of tests. And this shows the intensity with which North Korea was testing various types of missile systems. Their attempt, their drive, their motive to develop these systems is clearly shown by charts of this kind. Let's talk a little bit about motive. Obviously, we know motive is crucial, and I think if we look at North Korea, we can break down the motives for acquiring nuclear warheads and delivery systems into four basic categories. The first motive is deterrence, and North Korea has been very clear about this. This is a quote from a North Korean spokesman in 2010, and I'll just let you read it, but it's quite clear that North Korea regards the possession of nuclear weapons as an important deterrent to attacks on its country and efforts to overthrow the Kim dynasty. It's also clear that part of the motive for North Korea is leverage. The possession of nuclear weapons allows them to get attention, they can set the agenda, they can try to maximize positive outcomes from negotiations by using their nuclear weapons program and the possession of nuclear weapons as bargaining instruments. Third, it's quite clear that the regime itself derives a great deal of its legitimacy from the nuclear weapons program. The nuclear weapons program is held up as sort of the ultimate deterrent. It's held up as the ultimate defense of North Korea, an illustration of how capable the leadership is. So there's a lot of credibility, a lot of legitimacy wrapped up in this program for the Kim regime. And then finally, there's the always important but often forgotten element of bureaucratic politics. There are important domestic interests in North Korea within the government, within the regime, that see nuclear weapons as a cornerstone of their own bureaucratic position, their own bureaucratic power within the North Korean state. So put all these things together and you've got a package of motives that drives North Korea towards nuclear weapons possession and towards ever-increasing missile capability. So we shouldn't be surprised when we see propaganda photos like this one. This is Kim Jong-un and a warhead, it's probably not a real one, probably a mock-up, back in 2016. And these sorts of things are quite frequent in North Korean press and are disseminated abroad for a reason. Not only is it a reminder of North Korea's nuclear capability from a deterrence and a leverage point of view, but it also reinforces how the Kim regime has performed well in the defense of the Korean people, right? It fits into this narrative as a protector of the people, protector of the revolution, protector of the society. And so this sort of thing serves multiple purposes, all serving the motives of the North Korean state and Kim Jong-un and the Kim Jong-un regime. Let's turn now to the United States and North Korea. Now, the impetus for the recent developments in that relationship come with the first successful test of the Hwasong-14 ICBM in July of 2014. And that is significant because it's this missile that actually brings much of North America and the continental United States within range of North Korea's ballistic missile capability. And then you add the sixth nuclear test on 3rd September 2017. This one, of course, the more effective test. And then the successful test of the Hwasong-15 ICBM on 20th November. You put all those together and suddenly North Korea has got the United States' attention. And, of course, you now have the Trump administration in power in the United States. And this triggered sort of a set of diplomatic insults between Trump himself, largely through Twitter, and Kim Jong-un, largely through the information arm of the North Korean government, in which they engaged in highly personal criticism of each other. Trump referred to Kim Jong-un as Rocket Man, calling him short and fat, a madman, a sick puppy, and made the now famous quote that should North Korea attack the United States, they will be met with fire and fury, the likes of the world has never seen, or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote. Kim retaliated with statements referring to President Trump as a dog, a rogue, a gangster, and a mentally deranged U.S. dotard. And that sent people running for their dictionaries because it's an older term. It's not used much anymore, but it basically refers to an old person with declining mental capabilities. Now, in 2017, something interesting happened. A series of North Korea nuclear test site tunnels evidently collapsed. And this may have led North Korea to announce a freeze on future nuclear tests and missile testing. Now, it's not clear whether these two things are related. It may well be that North Korea wanted to do this anyway for reasons of its own, but that the collapse of the test site tunnels may have rendered the site unusable in the future. So are they making virtue out of necessity, or is this something they would have done anyway? Tough to tell. We do know that there was a rapprochement between North Korea and South Korea during the 2018 Olympics in Korea. And of course, North Korea sent athletes. And then there was a summit on 27th of April 2017 between Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in. And that summit was quite successful in terms of the two leaders meeting each other and getting along. That proved to be the impetus for a rather remarkable political event, the Trump-Kim Summit in Singapore in June of 2018. And those talks led to a joint statement that agreed on a few things. It agreed on a new era of U.S. DPRK relations. It agreed on the peace on the North Korean peninsula. It agreed on the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula and the recovery of U.S. prisoner of war missing in action remains from the Korean War. So that was the core of the joint statement released by the United States and North Korea at the conclusion of the summit. What wasn't said was anything about the details that any kind of denuclearization would involve. There was no definition of denuclearization given. There were no timelines. There was no discussion of missile testing, no talk of fissile material production, no talk of inventory disclosure, verification and inspection, and no discussion of whether North Korea would join the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty or fulfill its full obligations under the NPT and the International Atomic Energy Agency. So there was a great deal missing in terms of the kinds of technical details that one would have expected or hoped for coming out of this particular summit. When we look to the future, it's obviously very difficult to predict. We've seen how the relationship between North Korea and countries in North Asia and North Korea and the United States have fluctuated dramatically over time, characterized by crisis and then talks and then agreements and then the breakdowns of those agreements. So looking forward, can we expect more tests, both of nuclear devices and missiles? I think that would signal a very significant downturn in the relationship. Will we see more negotiations? There have been follow-up talks between American officials and North Korean officials. They don't seem to be going anywhere, at least at this time. So will we start to see the future characterized more by crisis management, or will there be the beginning of a true long-term process towards denuclearization? Will there be more sanctions if North Korea doesn't comply or doesn't move on certain issues? Is it possible that military action might still be used against North Korea, and with it, the possible outbreak of war on the Korean peninsula? And is it possible that North Korea just might collapse, that the country itself might simply collapse in revolution, or that there might be an overthrow of the Kim dynasty and a breakup of the regime and its key institutions and key actors. Would there be a military coup, perhaps? So all of these things are possible in the future, and we really don't have a clear sense at all of how any of this is going to play out. Okay, so now you should be familiar with the international politics surrounding the North Korean nuclear program. Okay, well, quite a tangled web, right? I mean, there's a lot going on here. A tangle of motives, a tangle of international negotiations, obviously a lot of distrust, not a little rhetoric, and volatile actions on the behalf of many parties. But at the end of the day, the North Korean nuclear program remains a focal point for concerns about the spread of nuclear weapons and about the possible use of nuclear weapons in future conflicts. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you again soon.